We are live. It is a Thursday evening right here on Proline TV. And we want to thank you for checking us out here on another opportunity for us to dive into NFL teams in their off seasons. I know they're not officially, well, some of them have officially began, and a lot of it has to do with coaching, which is really one of the topics that we're going to discuss here, no doubt, with the Miami Dolphins, one of the teams that added a new head coach. So we have a lot to talk about there. But we've yet to get into free agency, that part of the offseason, or the NFL draft. Of course, you got the Shrine this week. You have the Senior Bowl this week. So I know a lot of fans are getting excited. We had our first mock draft show earlier today with partners, of course, over at the Ourlads Football Network. And so you could check that out. We did a round one mock draft, which is just the beginning of much coverage as far as the NFL draft with our partners at Ourlads.com. But this is about the Miami Dolphins, and we're going to talk about which appears to be a big potential transition period for this organization. And Jason Sarney is joining from the Dolphins Wire, and he's the man that makes sure that we know exactly what's going on down in Miami. So, Jason, thanks a lot for doing this as always.
Of course, Greg. Always a pleasure to talk football with you. And 'tis the season. A lot of action going on after the action, so to speak, you know?
Yes. And unfortunately, fan bases like ours, this happens to be the time of year that we kind of have hope and excitement, because we don't get a whole lot of that during the regular season. The Jets haven't had a playoff appearance in 15 years. The Dolphins haven't won a playoff game in how long? 20?
25 years. Going
25
on 24th century.
So that's pretty futile for both of our fan bases, but hopefully we'll get this thing going in the right direction. And the Miami Dolphins are trying to do that with their new coaching staff, their new general manager. So let's start there, Jason. And let's start with the general manager deal. So, of course, Chris Greer is out. That is no big surprise. Tell me about John Eric Sullivan, comes over for Green Bay. And, of course, Hafley comes over from Green Bay, too. So, as an outsider, the first thing I'm thinking about is, they just hired another Packer coach, more Packer ties. Is that just a coincidence, or what's going on here? I know it only happened once, I guess, maybe. But it didn't work out the first time. So how excited are the fans about the new general manager? We'll start there, John Eric Sullivan.
Well, this is a really good scenario for the Dolphins, because for the first time in such a long time, I mentioned the 25 years that they've won since they've won a playoff game. In that timing, they have really not had a new GM and new coach at the same time. There's been many new coaches that have been going into GM situations or inherited situations. So with John Eric Sullivan coming on in, and his father has ties to Miami. He was a wide receivers coach some years ago. So that's a fun little tie there. But John Eric Sullivan is a guy who was in Green Bay for nearly as long as it's taken for the Dolphins to have this playoff.
Over 20 years,
years. And the Packers are really a terrific organization in developing talent, overall success. And he is a football guy. You know what I mean? And he has been making really good first impressions with how he was answering questions to the media and how he says that he wants to build the team. Really, some of the takeaways is, the stigma in Miami, they're a little soft when they go up north in the cold. So JES, or Sully, as he likes to be called, he wants to build a little bit more of that tougher demeanor, that tougher mindset. And he had a great quote. I'll paraphrase it a little bit. He said, "Speed can get slow, but size don't get small." So the last couple of years, the Dolphins have been focusing on that track meet type of a player really everywhere. But now I think they're going to be a little bit going towards some more physicality, really some more northeast, midwestern type of a build to go and brave the elements, so to speak,
Yeah, why not? I mean, I understand the whole idea of taking advantage of your surroundings, but again, it hasn't been working for 25 years. So, and football does start in the trenches. There's just no doubt about it. You can have all the speed in the world, and speed kills. We know that. But it does sound like what he's saying is look, I've been in one place for my entire career, and I see no reason to not bring that to Miami or wherever I was going to go. And I'm sure that was the pitch, and the pitch got him the job. And that's the direction that this franchise wants to go. And I see that sounds like a good idea to me.
No, absolutely. And listen, I'm not downgrading saying no speed. You got to have speed, but you got to complement it with some other kind of players. You don't want all Ferraris in your garage.
You don't want to be finesse.
Correct.
That's a bad word in football.
You want to have a couple of Jeep Cherokees. You want to have a tank.
Yes.
Not just Lambos and Ferraris out there. So I like what he's going to be, or at least I like what I think that he's going to be doing, because I think this is going to be a lot different of a draft strategy coming on up in April.
Yeah, you've had for quite a long time this mindset going into your drafts. Well, I know what Chris Greer does. I know what the organization does. This is going to be a big mystery season, off season for you guys. Is trying to figure out what's the direction going to be. What's the draft going to look like? And we'll get into that, of course, with the picks and everything like that. But okay, so that's where they start off with John Eric Sullivan coming over from the Packers. So Jeff Hafley is the head coach. So question, because I didn't follow it that closely, was it GM hired first, GM wants Hafley, or GM was coming in with Hafley?
GM was hired first. And, the Dolphins, what they did was they also hired Troy Aikman as a consultant who helped out in that, initial process of interviewing potential GMs. And they did their due diligence. They brought in a number of guys, even before they let go Mike McDaniel. That was a little interesting because they were bringing in people. Who knows if the candidates were like, well, I'm not going to really come if I can't pick my own coach. Who knows if that had something to do with it. Of course, the John Harbaugh minor little flirtation happened, but then ultimately McDaniel was gone. John Eric Sullivan comes on in. They interview several candidates, but the initial, and to get back to your original question, is how it was received by Miami fans. Initially, people were a little, oh man, this is a buddy system. We have Sully bringing in his buddy from Green Bay. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as they've gone through the process, and a brand new GM has to make his mark with his first hire. You don't hire a buddy. You hire who you're most confident with. And the fact that he spent time in Green Bay with Hafley, who had a very good defense, excellent run defense, and really is kind of cut from that same football guy cloth. He's a lot different than Mike McDaniel. I'm not trashing Mike McDaniel, but sometimes you need a complete 180. And from a football mind, a football guy, Hafley is a 180 from Mike McDaniel. I wish Mike McDaniel the absolute best in LA. I think he's going to be a good coordinator where he doesn't have to worry about the rest of the situations there. He's got Harbaugh for that. But I like this battery, as I'm calling it, between Sully and Hafley, a little baseball term for you. But I think they're going to be a very potent team in what is going to be sold as a rebuild, a new kind of foundational start for the Dolphins.
So Hafley, has everybody talked about, is he going to just be a head coach now? Is he going to not call plays on defense?
Oh, no, he's calling plays.
He will.
He will be. It's almost like the only kind of similarity that I could bring to the McDaniel scenario is that McDaniel was the head coach who called the offensive plays.
Yeah.
Although the difference with that is, and I'm not picking on Mike, but Mike, when he was in San Francisco, was a run game coordinator and then became offensive coordinator by title only. Kyle Shanahan was calling the offensive plays.
Sure.
So when Mike McDaniel became the Dolphins head coach, technically it was the first time he was calling plays. So there was so much thrown on McDaniel's plate.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, it didn't work out. But Hafley is coming on in as the head coach who has called 2 years worth of plays in Green Bay as a coordinator. He ran a college program in Boston College, and he's had some really terrific stops, in different college programs in, his career. So he will be the head coach with a DC wrapping, so to speak, but he'll be calling the plays. He'll be the man.
Does that mean that Anthony Weaver will not return?
It doesn't look that way. It looks like he is not going to. I hope for Anthony Weaver's sake that he gets a head coaching job. I hope selfishly he gets a head coaching job so we get a couple more compensatory picks.
Yeah,
with how it works out. But Weaver is a good candidate, and I hope that he lands successfully somewhere, whether it's a head coach, DC, But I wish him the best for sure.
Yeah, whoever gets him is going to get a good coach, even no matter what his role is, and his time will come. Okay. So offensive coordinator, this would be the one that I would be a little bit more concerned with, or I'm questioning, but there's always a reason. So when you heard it was Bobby Slowick, what was the reaction yourself and the fan base, considering he doesn't have like a great track record? So was there something that you saw or heard from Hafley and Slowick that did get the fan base excited and understood why he's here?
Well, as typical to the Miami Dolphin fan base, very, very fractured and split. Don't want to necessarily say 50-50, but, it depends on who you ask. I love the Slowick retention and promotion. I don't like the Slowick retention and promotion. I like it. I like it because he's a passing game guy. All right. And when he was in Houston, look, CJ Stroud did pretty well when he was in Houston. What happened after that, we could dissect another time. But I like Slowick's potential to kind of, as I like to say, he's now going to be driving the car. It's not like he's riding shotgun with McDaniel. It's his time to be behind the steering wheel. And I'm excited. I'm more excited than nervous to see what he could bring to the table.
Do you think it was one of those situations that Hafley felt, especially since he's running the defense too, so a little bit more responsibility there? It's not going to be as easy as if he was the head coach and he didn't have to have that responsibility, that he just felt, hey, I just feel a lot better knowing that somebody was here last year.
The reason why I like the continuity there is because the Dolphins have not had that so often. They ship out their young coordinators, and you get a Ben Johnson. You get a Dan Campbell, who was an interim coach, But a lot of these young guys, they go somewhere else, and they become stars.
Sure.
So, you know what I mean? So I like the fact that they're giving Slowick an opportunity.
Okay. All right. And Tabor comes over, special teams coordinator, so he has a lot of experience there. And any other key staff changes that, just kind of like interesting things here or there, or is it pretty much cut and dry like most other coaching staffs?
He's going fast and furious. Hafley. He's bringing in Packers guys. He's bringing in, definitely a creative bunch of coaches. Sean Dugan is going to be his DC. Ryan Downer is going to be his defensive backs coach. I like these guys. As Grand012 says, Tyke Tolbert, who's had a number of different teams as a wide receiver coach. Liddell Betts was a once upon a time 1,000-yard running back rusher for the Redskins. So he was coming off of a giant tenure as coach. So, this is an interesting crop for sure. But I have much more hopeful curiosity than nervous watching coming up. I like Hafley's mindset, and I like what he's bringing to the table so far.
All right. That's the coaching side of things. Let's see what else we have. We'll start with picks here as we move to another direction. From what I see, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks pretty good with the picks, including 3 in round 3.
Yeah, 3 in round 3. If you want to go a little bit further, it's 5 in the top 90, 6 in the top 111. The Dolphins have rarely had that amount of top 90 or top 100 some odd picks, maybe once in the last 15 years. So this is exciting because we don't know what's going to happen with Sully, And to be honest with you, whether you stay at 11, whether you see how the board plays, you might move back a little bit, whether you take a couple of those thirds and move on up. Everything is on the table for the Dolphins. The only thing that they don't have is a 6th round pick, but with 8 total picks, I can live with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know because I'm sure there's gonna look like you said. You don't know if this, but this new general manager is going to end up. Is he a trader? Does he like to trade up? Does he like to trade down? What does he like to do? So that everything's on the board here. So it'll be interesting. Let's now talk about the cap. So Greer, at least Greer did one good thing, and that was he left you all those additional draft picks, which, like you said, is very unusual for Chris Greer. And it's so funny that once he did that, he's been there to recoup but those benefits. But what he did not do, which is part of the reason he's not here, is help him with the cap situation. So it's one of the worst in the NFL. But as we all know, they'll be fine. The question is, how fine will they be? Do you think? And we really do have to start at the top with the three big names: Tua, Tyreek, and Chubb. So Tua is not going to be here, correct?
Gun to head, I will say no, but it's easier said than done. You're either staring down the barrel of a hell of a lot of dead money, no pun intended there, or you're going to go into the market to try to trade him, which would be almost as difficult, because who's going to take on all that money? There might have to be some sort of a weird scenario where the Dolphins are either eating the money or they're going to have to throw picks to say, all right, you're taking on the money, but we're going to award you with a third and a fifth because you're taking. I don't want that per se. There's been a lot of scenarios, a lot of, hypotheses of what's going to happen, but the easy play would to pull a Bronco and to cut him and just eat the dead money like they did with Russell Wilson. But we'll see. And this is another thing that is going to be interesting on how Sullivan handles it.
Okay. And what was the main reason that this, with all that money where it is, and with the fact that the Dolphins do not have, they have a nice young quarterback that nobody knows what his ceiling is, or whether or not he's even starting material. So really, they're one of the. If Tua's not on the team, I mean, they're pretty bad shape right now going into the offseason at the quarterback spot. So what happened that? It might have been even more than what we've already read, but what happened where it was, because again, I don't understand why it's just not, we may not really be happy with what's going on with this relationship, but the money situation is just too much. And we're going to, let's see if we can bring in another quarterback and a younger quarterback and go, even if we have to have him for another year, it's not the worst idea in the world, financially speaking. So what happened to make this bad? That the Dolphins had to kind of let the NFL know that it doesn't look like he's going to be back, and we're going to have to probably eat all this money because of it.
I mean, look, a lot of it, the injuries, the regression physically, not just the concussions, hip injury, other little nicks and cuts that he's dealt with. And to tell you the truth, I think he was limited right from the start. Everything has to really be on point for him. Very accurate passer, very good in that regard, but he isn't someone who can improvise. He's not someone to go third read, fourth read. It's one or two reads and that's it. And if it goes off script, it's a disaster. And you can see that a lot of quarterbacks in this league, if they have to run it, they're going to run it. If they have to pick up a first down, they're going to do it. Not every quarterback, of course, but Tua was certainly not one of those guys. Sliding 3-4 yards before the marker to definitely not get hit, basically falling down in the pocket, knowing that he's about to get sacked, just basically conceding to it. And when push comes to shove, he is just, I hate saying it because I rooted for him, but he is just on the bottom side of the Mendoza line in terms of who's a mediocre quarterback or who's above or who's below. Probably the 16th or 17th quarterback in the league at best. At best.
But again, because of the contracts, though, I would have thought that, okay, yeah, he's not performing well. Was it because of all the change going on at the front office and the coaching staff that this kind of just became a part of everything, and now everybody knows how they feel about Tua, and it is what it is? Because some organizations, even if they're not happy with the quarterback like that, well, maybe you just hear whispers about it. You wouldn't let the cat out of the bag. Why? What's the reason to do that for? So why do you think that again, was it just because a few things happened? It could have been off the field, because I did hear about some of those things. where it just became so obvious to everybody outside the organization that this can't. There's no way the Dolphins can come back with Tua next year.
Turnovers, lack of being able to be consistent. How
about off the field?
Off the field, he's a good guy and a good kid too, but I think there might have been some sort of an entitlement issue where he became a little bit too trying to be the leader. Maybe the ego got a little inflated, but nobody was following him, and trying to kind of be the guy to rally the troops. And it's almost like, I hate saying it, but you see Animal House? Are you an Animal House fan? Remember at the end when they're running the credits and Niedermeyer killed by his own troops?
Yeah.
Take it what it's worth for that. But that's kind of, it's like, all right, we're going to go into war with this guy.
Yeah.
Nah, let's push him over the mines first, or, just take him out.
Okay. Well, I don't know about, that's going to be very interesting because like you said, there's no way another team is going to add him with that budget, with that contract. So this is going to be very interesting to see how they handle that. But it does look like he's going to be somewhere else. Okay. So what about Tyreek and Chubb? How about Tyreek? What are the odds on him returning?
0.1%.
Oh, so just as good as Tua.
If there was one guy that I would say is 1,000% not coming back, it would be Tyreek. I mean, look, that knee injury was bad, was gruesome. So even if he, remarkably and miraculously is ready to go, I do think his time has ran its course in Miami. I think that he's an interesting guy. Tyreek is definitely an interesting guy on social media and regular world out there. So I get the feeling he doesn't want to be back, and I also get the feeling that the Dolphins are ready to cut those ties, but it's another dead money situation and no one's going to trade for a busted knee, 11th year problem child, so to speak, so I would say he's out. I wish him the best. I do. But I ain't going to be in Miami.
Okay, so with all this dead money, is this one of those situations where most of it is just going to be, the owner is just going to have to eat this large amount of dead cash, but it's not going to affect the team as much as you would think?
A lot of people like to joke that the salary cap is fictitious. It's not real. It's kind of real, but it's almost like taking out another credit card to pay off the other credit card.
Yeah.
You could do it, but you're kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
And you can be very creative. And again, with Sully coming on in, who knows how creative he is going to be. Now, another component that is staying in Miami is Brandon Shore. Now, Brandon Shore is the salary cap contract guy who is staying, and he was the one that worked with Greer, to get these contracts, for better or for worse, financially sound, or at least giving Greer the ability to do other things. So I'm very interested to see how now Sullivan and Shore work together. But look, you got situations that they can extend a player here or there. You can trade maybe one or two other players that have some value to alleviate the cap. Let's see if there's any renegotiations or extensions. Again, kicking the can.
Sure.
Absolutely. But this will be another situation that I'm very interested to see how Sullivan handles it. And it seems like he can. And this might be a rough year.
Yes.
But I'm not saying they're going to improve on the 7 wins and they're going to be a playoff contender.
Sure.
I can't say that. But this is the year to right the ship, to plug the holes, to fill the roster adequately, and to get the financial burden fixed.
Yeah, because I would happen to think when it's the first year of this new regime, they're probably saying, "Look, this isn't my fifth. I'm not trying to win now, or am I going to get fired? So if we're going to have one really tough year financially, it's got to be the first year. That's got to be. I'm sure that's their 100%. Thinking.
It's almost like, a young couple gets married and they're moving on into a house and everything else. All right, we're not buying dinner. We're making dinner. We're not going out to lunch when we go to work. We're bringing peanut butter sandwiches. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be something like that in free agency. I wouldn't look at multiple shiny objects.
No.
One, but they're going to plug it in with the C, D, and E kind of level free agents,
Yeah, you're going to have to. And that's just the way that it is. And I'm sure the fan base understands this. Okay. And then finally, Bradley Chubb. What's the percentages that he will be back?
The percentages are fun to say, and there's no way to quantify it accurately. I'll say 5%.
Oh my Lord! Wow, he's gone too.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not going to tell you 100% on really anything. I don't want to, have that on camera. But
has he got the best of the three cap situations?
Oh boy, that's
what's the better way to frame that? The best of the worst.
It's the most tolerable.
Okay.
Of these three.
Okay.
But it could be looked at as one of those Greer moves that on paper initially looked great.
Yeah.
But what if they didn't do it? How would we be now? But they're going to probably cut him, and Chubb will probably end up on a Super Bowl winning team. That's just the way that the world works with Miami Dolphins. So
and he'll stay healthy.
Oh, 1,000%. 15 sacks of a Super Bowl appearance.
Yes.
That's for sure.
So not trade, cut.
Trade would shock me. If Sullivan can pull off a trade
because of his contract.
Right, and get a draft pick, you could lay the ground on a statue already for him.
Got it. All right. So, and by Tyreek, he would also be. So really what we're looking at is all three of these guys are most likely all just going to get cut.
Which would probably equate to around 150 or 160 million of dead money.
Okay.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when a GM does his thing, leaves the casino broke, and asks his best friends to fit the bill.
Yeah. Well, his best friend deserves it the way that he allowed
Brandon Short's going to be a very busy man in the offseason.
That's right.
He could help in a major way with what Sullivan wants to do schematically. And Shore's the right guy to help guide this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because that's kind of, it's interesting because you would think if a cap guy has been there, how long has he been there? Has he been there for the whole process? Okay.
A long time. He comes from like human resources accounting.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So he's like the pencil pusher who's not the football man.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
But he is the administrative numbers guy.
Okay.
All
right. Yeah, that makes more sense because I was going to say if he's more of a football guy and he's in this position, I would be like, well, what are you still doing here? If you're a football guy and you allowed this to go on, then I don't want you here either. But considering he was basically just, okay, what do I got to do? Tell me what I got to do. I've got no input on this. I'm just going to let you know what you're dealing with here. That makes more sense. So, okay. All right. So let's now get into free agency with the team pop up. And obviously we're not going to go through all of them, but there's an awful lot of free agents on this team. I think this is the most I've talked about so far. I think I've done about 10 of these, and this is the most. So out of all of these free agents, I guess we'll start on offense. And are there any players on offense that you think the Dolphins are going to try and sign that are not just like league minimum dudes?
There's not many that you could say would be welcomed back or needed back. Darren Waller intrigues me a little bit because, when he was on the field and utilized, he was very, very good. But he's up there in age. He has an injury risk to him. So don't necessarily 50-50 on Darren Waller, Alexander Madison had a horrible injury in the preseason. He's not going to be back, I'm sure. D. Eskridge, low down in the wide receiver rankings, but he was a quality return man. So it'll be really interesting what Tabor thinks of him as a special teams coach if they want to retain him. Liam Eichenberg, see ya. He can pack his bags.
Yeah.
So I see here on the chat, Aaron Brewer is going to be back. He's phenomenal. He's one of the best centers in the league. So he's a staple. I think he's under contract too. I don't know if he's
he's agent. On the. I haven't seen him up here.
No, he's under contract. Great player. I mean, there's no huge name on offense. There's a couple of guys on defense that are intriguing.
I mean, was Borum a guy that should return? He is an offensive lineman.
He's a Jag, just another guy. Just another guy. Right. I think that going into the Packers' potential draft mindset, there will be a lineman drafted early. That is for darn sure. And I would think that they bring in multiple on free agency, even if it is that C and D tier. But I don't see Borum back.
Okay.
And Kendall Lamb is he's one step into retirement.
And what about the two tight ends, Dulcich and Hill? I know Hill's a restricted free agent because he had an awful lot of playing time. And Dulcich, we know he's more of a one-trick pony, never really panned out. Did he show anything at all?
He did. Dulcich showed his ability to be a 3 to 5 catch guy. I liked his game. I think that there's a solid chance that they can retain him. Look, I don't think he's going to be getting millions of dollars elsewhere. No. So you have a nice little 2-year deal. You keep him home. And Julian Hill, at times, a tremendous blocker and can be okay when utilized in the pass game. A couple of little tricky penalties, silly penalties throughout his tenure, sure. But it would not shock me at all to see those two back with even a flyer taken for another year on Waller. But Dulcich, he's a fan favorite. They love him. Oh. Dolphin fans love him. They call him almost like a heavier version of Weird Al Yankovic with the hair.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
But, he's a good player that I know Dolphin fans would overwhelmingly be happy with the return.
Yeah, you never know when you're going to get these kids are real talented. He was a high pick, and sometimes they just need a different system, change of scenery, whatever the case may be. And maybe that's what's happening with Dulcich. Okay, the defensive side of the ball, again, there's a lot here, a ton in the secondary. Let's start in the secondary side. Of all those players in the secondary, who needs to come back?
That's an interesting way to put it. Who needs to come back? Because rumor is we could say goodbye to Ashton Davis because he's probably going to your home to the Jets.
There might be a couple of guys in that secondary. Considering how much money the Jets have, they can sign any of these guys and the Dolphins won't be able to match as long as they want them. So who would those guys be that you think the Jets would be interested in?
100% Ashton Davis, I think you could really put a pin in him there. Ife Melifonwu, I don't necessarily know about going to the Jets, but I don't see him returning. Kader Kohu got injured in the preseason of last year, and he was our slot guy. So I would love him to stay, but I don't know how that rehab is 100% going. But put a pin on him as a maybe. Maybe the fear from other teams with that injury would unfortunately hurt his financial capabilities, but the Dolphins could say, hey, Kader, stick around with us. We'll give you this, that, or the other thing. So I would be happy to see him return. Rasul Douglas played great for us. I mean, he really had a heck of a second half of the year when he got back from missing a couple of games. He has familiarity with some of these coaches from his days in Green Bay, not necessarily Hafley, because he was there the year before Hafley got there.
Okay.
But there is familiarity with some of the other staff members. So this just is a situation where if Douglas enjoys his time in Miami and wants to stay in the sun, he'll stay. But if he wants to chase the championship, I can't fault him for going somewhere else. So I would like to see him back. Am I going to put my mortgage on it? Not necessarily.
What about Jones?
they drafted a lot of defensive linemen on the interior last year. I think that he probably won't be back, especially because it's a little bit of a new scheme now with Halfley. So, you got 3 rookies from last year, Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, Zeke Biggers, and then you have Zach Sealer. So I think that Benito will probably find his way somewhere else.
Yeah.
Nothing against him, but, if you need to find what $1 million or $2 million you're going to save or spend elsewhere, Benito's a guy you could probably let go.
Yeah,
let go somewhere else.
Yeah, because, again, nobody seems to stick out here. And what about the other Jones, Jack in the secondary?
I don't see him back. Up and down, little feast or famine type of a player. And he was an emergency guy last summer. The whole secondary was getting the injury bug, and Douglas and Jones were pretty much emergency break the glass signings. So if one of them would be, potentially coming back, I would hope and say it would be Rasul. I don't expect Jack back.
All right. And then Bailey, punter.
I will love him back. Had a great year. One of the best punting years the Dolphins have had. And he's solid. And the funny thing is about, and anyone who follows me on Twitter or has listened to my fun stuff about the holding game, Jake Bailey's a hell of a holder. Now, if you want to go back to the last 2 seasons of Dolphins field goal kickers, you have Riley Patterson, who had the Dolphins record of 93%. And last year, Jason Sanders finished the year on 27 straight field goals made.
Okay.
Now, the common denominator there was the holding of Jake Bailey. I'm joking, but I'm being semi-serious here. But I like Jake Bailey. I would
maybe that's a package with Cardona and Bailey.
Sure. I mean, Cardona's was a long snapper with great experience from his Patriot days. Why change it up if it was working?
Yes.
And with the kicking game, you might save a couple of dollars if you cut Jason Sanders and you keep Riley Patterson. All Riley Patterson did was break the Dolphins record for field goal percentage in a year that he was an emergency. So interesting on what they'll do, but they should be special teams was actually a bright spot for the Dolphins this year. So,
okay. All right. Now, are there any young players on the roster and not necessarily free agents, but players and not necessarily top draft picks either, that could have a bigger role coming up next season? Somebody that maybe if you're not a Dolphin fan, you'd be, oh really? I never really heard of that guy. I didn't realize, or I've heard of him, but I didn't realize the Dolphins thought that highly of him.
Well, I'll give you 2 defensive backs that had okay rookie years. Dante Trader Jr. out of Maryland and Jason Marshall Jr. out of Florida. I am a huge fan of both of those guys for their potential.
Okay.
Jason Marshall in Florida, and I know you guys over at Ourlads know this, he was an outstanding boundary who was really tasked with guarding top-end receivers. They asked him to convert to nickel, and he did rather well for asking someone who never played in the slot to do that, and he did rather well. So now you could lump into the versatility mix of being a potential boundary and a nickel guy. So I like what they could mold him into. And again, you got Halfley, who is like a defensive backs kind of guy.
That's right.
So I'm very excited to see Marshall's development further under Halfley. And Dante Trader Jr. can play when you encompass special teams, 7 positions. Anywhere on the field is a safety, any type of a coverage or return, blocking or, gunner or what have you. He can be used and take up 3 or 4 or 5 roster spots, theoretically. So if you say goodbye to a Melifonwu and an Ashton Davis, you have Minkah Fitzpatrick. All of a sudden, you're looking for that next safety up. The Dolphins are probably going to draft a safety. And we'll get into the draft stuff. If Caleb Downs is at 11, you run the ticket up.
Well, that ain't happening.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That is not happening.
Yeah.
But I like Dante Trader Jr. I love players who have multiple sports, but skill sets within those sports that translate to the game of football. When you look at a lacrosse player who hit like he can hit, not necessarily wrap up tackle, but hit, get the ball loose, and be tough in that mindset. I think Trader is going to be a player on the up. So keep an eye out for Dante Trader, Jason Marshall.
Okay. And nobody on offense?
From an offensive line standpoint, Patrick Paul continued to develop. I mean, I think that is what you hope for in a second-round pick. Running back Ollie Gordon had some spark, but then a mixture of bad offensive line play and kind of untimely play calling by McDaniel in short yardage situations kind of put him back. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm a huge fan, when utilized correctly, of Malik Washington. Now, Malik Washington, if you look at his receptions and targets chart, a lot of these passes were getting to him behind the line of scrimmage. They were not giving him an opportunity to get downfield, which was kind of ridiculous when you think about the times that he went downfield as a rookie 2 years ago. Believe it or not, he was number one in the NFL in route win rate. So what do you do in his sophomore year? You give him the ball behind the line of scrimmage 80% of the time, which he had a game where he had like 4 catches for -2 yards. I mean, that's unfathomable. Yeah. So he's also a heck of a return man too. He's also a guy, this was one of my favorite stats. He became, I believe it was the 5th Dolphin to score, 5th Dolphin wide receiver to score a return touchdown, a reception touchdown, and a rushing touchdown this year. So he is a versatile guy who can get into the end zone, who could rush the ball a couple times a game on end arounds, but utilize him correctly as a slot guy in the passing game, get him downfield a little bit more. He can be a chain mover.
And before we move on, Quinn Ewers, what did you see? What do you think realistically about him yourself, and what do you think that maybe the organization feels about him?
Poise and potential. Looks like an NFL quarterback. Look, once upon a time, he was a day 1 pick, maybe a day 2
Absolutely.
pick, how they got him at 7th round, very, very nice lottery ticket.
Yeah.
That is already a hit. Because he leapfrogged Zach Wilson, who, goodbye, Zach Wilson.
Sure.
But in no time, everybody was saying, all right, well, Quinn Ewers is the backup. And when Tua was demoted, this is Quinn Ewers' show now.
Sure.
And he had a really fine game against the Buccaneers. Not a terrific game against the Bengals, but showed potential. He looks the part. Skylar Thompson did not. Mike White did not. Snoop Hundley, you get what you pay for. You know what I mean? But Quinn Ewers is a guy who could mesh with this new, regime. Bobby Slowick is there, so there is that continuity too, as you alluded to earlier. So am I saying that there's no competition coming? No, because we'll talk about maybe a free agent in a minute who has ties to Green Bay that everyone in Miami is rolling out the aqua carpet for, but Malik Willis. But I would think that this is Ewers' opportunity to win a job over a free agent, maybe a drafted rookie. But if he wins the job over a potential free agent like a Malik Willis, that shows that they mean business with Ewers, and he has all of that potential. But we'll see what happens. I think that he has every opportunity in the world to win this, but let's see who his actual competition is.
Yeah, and I don't think Willis is going anywhere that he is almost not pretty much guaranteed he's starting. Because there's enough. There's a handful of teams out there that have nothing at quarterback, and one of those teams would be willing to say, yes, you'll be our starter. Don't worry, you're our guy. So yeah, that great ties, like you said. So that's going to be interesting. Maybe they can talk him into it.
The major interest there is that Hafley, as the defensive coordinator last year, is very in tune with Willis from the practice squad. And
Sure.
you know what I mean? So like just seeing him and having that conversation daily, weekly, film study, what have you, there is a relationship there. So look, if another team comes in with a 3-year, multi-million-dollar contract.
And you never know. They're so desperate for quarterbacks that they're willing to do it. Yep.
But we'll see if there's a new hometown South kind of discount for Sully and Hafley. Wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, he might feel comfortable in that situation as well. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Okay, so and then injuries. Are there which players had injured seasons that and let's say we did not see him second half of the season, all season, that people need to be reminded about? Yeah, don't forget about this guy. He's a part of the Dolphins. He's a starter. He's a big contributor.
I mean, that's a great question. And off the top of my head, the guys who were injured, and significantly, like your Tyreek Hill's out there, a free agent that played 4 snaps, like James Daniels, a guard. He's not going to be back. I don't think, unless I'm just completely missing.
Is James Daniels a free agent, or you're just saying they're going to cut him?
They're going to probably cut him.
So who else? Yeah, because tell me that too. To also let me know which players you think will get cut. Cap casualties.
Cap casualties.
So James Daniels is one of them.
James Daniels. If you want to call it like that, as it is, Bradley Chubb could be one of those guys.
The other 3, the big 3 we talked about. Yeah,
correct. That's a really good question. I don't have the exact contracts in front of me, but it would be really interesting. Austin Jackson is a guy who I don't love Austin Jackson. He had 1 good year, so you can cut ties with him. Like I said, Jason Sanders is someone you could probably cut ties with. James Daniels has a couple of years on the contract, but I can't see him back. Ty Dotson they'll probably keep around, but they could probably pair somebody better with Jordan Brooks. I don't know if they're going to utilize Alec Ingold in this system. Alec Ingold was a guy that McDaniel loved, but great story of a player. I just don't know if he's in the plans.
Okay.
What else we got here? Sealer, you can't cut Sealer. I don't want to trade Sealer. Storm Duck, nice little story, but I don't know that he's safe per se. Taj Washington, same idea. 7th round guy. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, they got to get some big receivers, Greg. They have all these small speedsters. You need some tall guys. And Nick Westbrook-Ikine wasn't it. He did not have a good year. So can't see him back either.
Okay. Let's now go to, all right, rookies. So we've already talked about a few of them. The big deal to move up in round 2, it just did not work out.
No, it didn't. I mean, it was a Hindenburg of a move. It was bad because not only was he bad, I mean, you could say that he was the worst. Like you could literally call him the worst. He was the worst pass blocking guard. He was like the 3rd to worst run blocking guard. It didn't work. Now, the coaching staff or the old coaching staff will swear that him going from the right side in college to the left side had nothing to do with it. I can't agree. It would have been nice to see if he played on the right side to see if there would have been any difference. But at the same time, he got dominated. He got straight dominated. So I wouldn't even be shocked if they bring in via draft a guard. I can't guarantee that Joan is a starter in 2026. If somebody beats him out, they're going to beat him out.
Yeah, it's a new regime.
It's a new regime. I mean, there is no safety, not position. There is no safe net for Jonah to guarantee himself a starting role in 2026. That's for sure.
Okay. Now let's go into. We'll wrap up with the biggest one, and that is overall team needs heading into the offseason for Miami. So, is there a clear-cut, absolute number one need? There's just no doubt about it.
Number one, you could have three different number one needs that I feel like could all be sold as equal need of importance. And that's on the offensive line, whether it's guard or tackle, whether it's in the defensive backfield, whether it's safety or cornerback, or whether it's an edge rusher, because you have potentially Chop Robinson, who kind of regressed a little bit as a speed pass rusher, but isn't an overall, edge setting run defender. So they're also going to be looking at a Hafley 4-3 system now. So things are really changing up, where the player that they look for might not necessarily, in an early sense, be a 15-sack guy. It might be a guy who is better off at being a dominating rush defender to help out a guy like a Chop, to help out other potential pass rushers that they could obtain in free agency or the draft. So this is one of those surprises where I can't wait to see what they do in the front seven, because I think that defensive lineman, whether it's a pure edge or whether it's one of those versatile, multiple technique kind of guys on the line, is drafted in one of those top three picks. So in those top three picks, I would love defensive line, defensive back, offensive line.
Yeah, in our mock draft, our first one earlier today, our top scouts, John Cooper, Dave Syvertson, and they actually went with the first overall cornerback. Actually, the first cornerback, because they actually had Caleb Downs going second overall in the draft. But the first cornerback overall they had going to the Dolphins. What do you think about
Mansour Delane?
No. He went the very next pick.
Gerard McCoy?
Yeah. How do you feel about potentially that happening, about drafting a guy coming off a major injury?
It would be a Chris Greer pick. That's what Dolphins. Nothing against McCoy, because if you watch how he played when he was healthy,
phenomenal.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
Off the charts. But if Sullivan makes his first ever draft pick with the Miami Dolphins, and as a GM, with a red flag injury guy, you might have some Dolphin fans go into a nightmare-fueled rage and never get out of it. So I don't know. I don't know that I would be me. I would think that, a big prototypical edge, maybe even a linebacker. But oh man, I'm scared to see. And again, nothing against McCoy. If Sullivan wants to be a gambler and trade back and then steal McCoy 5, 6, 10 round picks later, okay. But if you stick around at 11 and Miami's tackle Malago is there, which I doubt, or Utah's Fano is there, which I doubt. Mentioned earlier, Caleb Downs, which I doubt. So this could be an interesting 11th slot, very interesting. I like Mansour Delane from LSU, who, there you go, went right after to the Cowboys. I'm a big fan of his versatility, his ability to be scheme versatile and position versatile. So that would be fine by me if it's Delane.
And other players.
Mind you, if those other three guys that I mentioned are off the board.
Well, right there.
Wow.
Yeah. So there could be some offensive linemen available there. Let's see. We got Mesidor, another one right there from Penn State. Proctor, I don't think he can go that high. Let's see. Another one from San Francisco.
Hey, Caleb Lemieux might be as valuable of a player as his teammate.
He might be.
Interesting guy there as well.
Yeah. And again, just like anything, and same thing with us, it's early. So these are early.
Hey, I don't know where Greg went, but I'm sure he'll be back. But
Sorry about that.
There he is.
Yeah.
I had a Garth moment from Wayne's World. I'm going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine.
Backwards on my own screen. It's the monitor.
It's all good.
What the hell did I just do?
I think I handled that swimmingly. Maybe my eyes were like deer in headlight eyes, that. But I'll be all right.
Okay. So, all right. So definitely, I think, so this is really important to know. This is why these conversations matter. Talking to guys like you that are with the team, the team, because outside people, who knows? Everybody might look at the depth chart and go, oh yeah, I mean, best player available there without question. Got to be a corner. And maybe it will be, could be Delane, like you said, but just letting us know exactly what you said regarding where Sullivan's coming from. That's stuff that maybe a lot of people don't know, and why it would make more sense. And just having you say that to me leads me to believe, like, if I'm putting a mock draft together between now and the draft, if I do 5 of them, every time I come to the Dolphins, I'm going edge or offensive line. I'm not going anywhere else based on what you told me.
I'll give you one other name. Keldrick Falk from Auburn. Now, if you look at stats, a lot of Dolphin fans, and I've been talking him up, and ironically, a couple days after I initially tweeted that I think this could be a pick right after the Sullivan and the there you go, right before. Right after the Hafley hire, I tried to jump into the mind of, all right, Hafley and Sullivan, they want size, they want toughness. Hafley is a guy who you have to play the run. Like, his defense stops the run. Keldrick Falk is a versatile 6'6", 290, long darn arms, 20 years old. He'll be 21 in September, who is a high character guy who can be a game-changing rush defender. Is this a sexy pick for Dolphin fans that are just going to look at his stat sheet and say, yeah, 2.5 sacks last year? We can't have this. Don't look at that.
Yeah.
Look at everything else he can do. But, if he happens to fall and the Dolphins decide to make a trade back, if their other top guys are gone, you pick up a Falk 16, 17, 18 and get some more capital. Oh my God, is that a potential home run? But, you read some scouting reports on Falk, and really good character as a person, really good physical traits, and he can move on inside. I read a comp that he was a more athletic Calais Campbell. So wow. To me, that's appealing. And this is the draft where, look, no matter what you do in the first round, this is not a pick to put the Dolphins into the playoffs of the
Sure, yeah.
So you're looking for development, and you're looking to build. I hate drafting on potential. You got to draft on talent, production, and the potential. But I wouldn't look at raw stats with Falk. I'd look at what he could do for his teammates as well.
Yeah, John Cooper, when he was going over Falk, he actually mentioned the fact that he has made strides on the run defensive side. That, he is pass rush first, but the run defense has gotten better. So, like you said, so that is something that because you're drafting an edge guy that high, you're not looking for a pass rush specialist. I mean, you gotta do more than just rush the passer. So.
100%. And Chop Robinson is that. And it's funny, the Dolphins community, it's like you love Chop for his potential, but every game you're watching and you're seeing tweets, can't stop the run, can't set the edge. Well, hello, here's Keldrick Falk who could do that. And you know what the Dolphins would say? Didn't get to the quarterback, didn't sack him. Yeah. So what can you do?
Yeah, you can't win with some fans.
You can't win. Exactly.
No, yeah. Okay, so we can put that like almost like a top 3. So give me a couple of more team needs for the Dolphins.
You know what? If the Dolphins are going to double up anywhere, it would be on the trenches on both sides. So I would think that if they go with a guy like a Falk, you got to get a speed pass rusher. Danny Denton-Sutton from Penn State, DDS, I think could be a guy. A kid from Illinois, Gabe Jackus, who I liked last year but went back to school. So he could be a guy who could be a day 2 pick to get a couple of those defensive linemen. I love Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon to be an inside lineman on the offensive side, a guard, take that right guard spot. But a kid who I really am very high on is Max Ianacor from Arizona State, 6'6", right tackle, a little bit of a project, but he is and going back to that multiple sport scenario, but skills that translate to football. He's a soccer player and a basketball player. Remarkable footwork, and he is having a heck of a Senior Bowl week of practice. If you look across the social media world right now, he is one of those guys that people are saying this kid can play. I'm comparing his potential rise to Armand Membo. At this time last year, you were mock drafting Membo late round 2, early round 3, and calling yourself a mock drafting genius. And then he became a New York Jet. What was he, 7th overall?
Yeah, something like that.
Right after the Senior Bowl, it was like, if you think he's getting anywhere close to the middle of the end of first round, you're crazy. So right now, I saw Ianacor drafted in the 3rd round, like earlier in the week. Now he's being mock drafted in the 2nd round. Wouldn't shock me at all to see him in the late 20s, early 30s in the 1st round.
Yeah, again, that's why it's so early. But that's what these weeks are: Senior Bowl week, East West, and then we'll have the combine and all that kind of stuff. You're going to still see a lot of changes as far as the ranking positions. And of course, we just put out not only the first mock draft, but I'm sure they're going to be updating their positional rankings as soon as they can. But the draft guide, that is going to be the last part of it, and that's going to come out or it should come out, as I think it usually comes out the first week of April. So we'll have a link in the description of this video that you can order the Ourlads draft guide. Hundreds of scouting reports on just about 95% of the players that are going to get drafted. So if you're into the draft, don't forget to order the Ourlads draft guide. All right.
I have to let everybody know, Greg, you got to listen to Greg on that, because this book is a Bible. It is fantastic. I love it. It is something that I literally take with me everywhere I go. So I love reading it. Definitely. I can't wait. I can't wait to see that in the mail. It is fantastic. And just real quick, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that another position that I can't wait for the Dolphins to draft is a tall wide receiver.
Okay.
There's like 5, 6, 7 guys. I'm setting the bar at 6'2", 6'2" or above. So that would be your Jacoby Lanes, your Surratt, your Chris Brazel, Malachi Fields, Ted Hurts out of Georgia State is making his name in the Senior Bowl. So here's another guy, 6'3". Dolphins need to add size to complement Waddle, to complement Malik Washington. So if they look at that 3rd round, they got 3 3rd-round picks. One of those picks should be a tall wide receiver.
Would you be surprised if he slipped a little bit? Is that the Dolphins would have interest in Tate? Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, yeah, a little bit of a concern there. But again, he fits that bill, 6'3", but an Ohio State wide receiver. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah. And I have to ask you about quarterback.
Uh-oh.
So what do you think? Because I actually look on our mock draft, and I understand why. Simpson, 2nd pick for the Jets. Okay, I get it, and I'm not saying that I'd be completely upset about it, but what I would rather see my team do, and the Dolphins are in the same situation, of course, but is I'm okay with taking a look at Nussmeier, Chambliss, Drew Aller in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, and going there before spending a 1st round on Simpson. That's just me. I'm not that high on Simpson. I understand why he's expected and should go before those guys. It's just the way scouts, it's just the way it is in the NFL. Some guys just get drafted over other guys for reasons. And we're not going to go into the whole thing of that. But, and you know what those reasons are mostly, especially at the quarterback position. But I just feel more comfortable going with that 2nd tier group than spending a 1st rounder on someone like Simpson. So What do you think about some of those guys that are going to be available? We'll throw them up here, right here. Here's the list of the top 10. Now, this was the order when the season ended, how it was. And you could even throw Carson Beck on that list. Somebody that'll get drafted a little bit later on that I'd be like, sure, I'm okay with drafting Carson Beck instead of going with Simpson in round 1.
Definitely don't think this is the time for the Dolphins to go round 1 with the quarterback. Now, another interesting thing that Sullivan said was that he's going to draft a quarterback every year. He basically said it in more or less words. And if worse comes to worse, the trade value. And that's something that is bringing in an aspect of competition, no matter who your quarterback is. And no matter who your quarterback is, how good he is, if you see your team draft one and spend a pick on it, there's an element of, oh, all right, I got to elevate. Oh, I can't take a day off. I have to keep my job, or I have to re-win my job, you know? So to me, another nightmare would be another Alabama quarterback. I know that might not be the fairest thing to say, but let's face it. I don't think Ty Simpson is going to be the 11th overall pick for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Nussmeier's having a heck of a week. He's someone you could circle. Aller, you could circle. Carson Beck, obviously, with his location in Miami last year and what he did. Yeah, I'm a little jury's still out on him for being, you know, skilled enough to be an NFL quarterback. I'm sure he's going to be a day 2 pick. But guy I like is Taylor Green. Tall, dual threat, and that you can get a good value there if you're the Dolphins with your second or third round pick. But you know, you have a good evaluation period, you have a good combine with his size and speed and ability, he could astronomically shoot up the board. So I think the Dolphins are tailor-made to draft a roster building team without the quarterback until you get 4 or 5 picks under your belt. So I'm looking at what, like that's 90 or 111 for the Dolphins to
like one of those thirds.
See the board. Right.
Okay, that makes sense. And again, I think that's fine with this group. I have no problem with that. Even though I do believe, especially the way you said Nussmeier's playing, I kind of get the feeling Nussmeier's going to find his way back into the first round.
It's like he could be the dart. It's like he could be the dart this year in terms of, all right, if you think you're getting this guy in day 2, wait a week and he's not going to be on anybody's boards past 27, 25, you know? Yep.
And I wouldn't even be surprised if he jumped Simpson. I really wouldn't.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay. So before I let you go then, is there a position in free agency that you can see, especially at quarterback? Is there a specific, you mentioned Willis. Let's say Willis isn't available. Is there another player? Have you looked at the Packers free agency group yet? Is there someone out there that you think would be a good fit with Miami?
Give you 2 guys, Quay Walker, linebacker, and Romeo Doubs.
Romeo Doubs, that makes a lot of sense, both with the Packers. Okay. I like it. Excellent. Well, you did the great job as always for us, Jason. Now I am a lot smarter, as I always am, every time I talk to you about the Miami Dolphins. And that's your job. So I appreciate it. Appreciate Grandizer with all of his input.
Great stuff, Grandizer.
Yeah, I wish we had more viewers that had his drive and his excitement into participating with the show. By the way, you mentioned something about Bob Kemp. I don't know who Bob Kemp is. I guess he's an old-time radio sports talk. Is that what that is? Okay.
The name kind of rings a bell, but I don't know how it's ringing right now. The name rings a bell.
Okay, so what's going on with the Dolphins Wire, Jason, for any of the fans, viewers out there that have never heard of your site?
Yeah, you know, Dolphins Wire through USA Today and Gannett Media, you know, the whole Wire network with several teams. There's Touchdown Wire, but I'm on the Dolphins side of it. You know, very soon I'm going to do my player profiles. I'm going to do some mock drafts. I can't wait for the Senior Bowl to end so I could do my first official mock post Senior Bowl. So that'll be probably the next thing you'll see from Dolphins Wire from me. And there's some really great writers on over there. So check them out. And of course, I absolutely love talking football with you, Greg. Thank you as always for having me.
You got it. Appreciate it. Likewise, Jason. Looking forward to talking to you again right after the draft, unless something major comes up before then. But we'll have an opportunity to chat and find out how the Dolphins went for free agency and the draft. That'll be the next step in 2026. So again, thanks a lot for doing this, Jason, and we'll talk again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Be well, Greg. Thanks so much.
You got it. All right, Jason Sarney, the Dolphins Wire, talking Miami Dolphins right here on Proline TV, part of the Ourlads Football Network. Thanks for tuning in. Also, don't forget to check us out for all upcoming interviews. I've got about 30 more of these. No, actually about 20 more of these. You can check out the library here at Proline TV and over at Ourlads for all the interviews that we've already done so far. Again, like I said, 7, 8, 9 of these so far. The mock draft was our first one today. And then next week, of course, we're going to preview the Super Bowl over on Proline TV. So you can check us out there with our star handicappers, Mark Lawrence and Jim Feist and Andy Isco. So that's going to wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Stay warm. And if you're on the East Coast, have that shovel ready and be safe. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see everybody next time. Appreciate it.